Yeah, hi. So welcome to another session of mock interviews with Ankit Jain. So this is me, Ankit Jain. So I'm a technical architect at an MNC. I'm Etinic certified. I'm active in Salesforce events like India Dreaming or Developer Days. I'm active in all those Salesforce events. So this is my YouTube channel where I record and put whatever the videos, interviews that I take. This is my LinkedIn URL and this is the QR code for that. So you can scan it and you can connect with me. Since based on, I mean, in my LinkedIn profile, I post like whenever I have the future sessions. Also, the same information is available in the WhatsApp group. So this is the QR code for that, and this is the URL. So today we have multiple participants. So we have Inakshi, we have Krishna, we have Aman as well. So uh, let's get started with them. So we'll be starting with Krishna. So Krishna, let's start with a brief introduction first.
Yes, so thank you, Ankit. I am Krishna Khandelwal, and I am thrilled to be here today with the 1.3 months of experience as a Salesforce developer. I have had the privilege of working with the diverse teams and tackling complex challenges within the Salesforce ecosystem. My journey here has been driven by a passion for innovation and a commitment to deliver impactful solutions. So, I'm eager to share my experiences and explore how I can contribute to the success. So, yeah, thank you.
First point, like if someone asks you to tell about like your brief introduction, your intro should be like, my name is this. I have these many years of experience. I have total now the credential part. Like if you hold any certification, you can say like I have like I'm 2x certified, like Salesforce admin or Salesforce platform developer. And then next thing I talk about is my skill set includes LWC or Apex, workflow rules or flows, whatever like it.
Yes, yes.
So
Should I
intent,
mention?
yeah, this is the way you say it. Idea being whatever you said, like objective and other things that anyways can get analyzed in the HR round or in the managerial round, right?
Yes,
What
yes.
the technical panel is actually expecting out of is from you is what are your skill sets, so he can ask you the relevant questions that you have worked on.
Hmm.
Would you like to take a minute and try to formulate your brief introduction as what I just said?
Yes, yes.
So
Just so yes. Hello. I am Krishna Khandelwal. I am. It is a very great chance to be here today. I am 1.3 months of I have 1.3 months of experience as a Salesforce developer. Um, I am a admin means I am 1x certified as a Salesforce administrator. My uh, co- Coming to my technical uh, skill sets. My skill sets includes LWC, SOQL flows, asynchronous Apex, and in my current organization, I have been working on various a- admin tasks, which includes user and role management, profile configuration, page layout customization, and the creation of validation rules. Also, coming to my achievements, I have conducted comprehensive testing and debugging to enhance system reliability, which
so two things here. First thing, you should mention like what's your current, like you mentioned the experience, I get that, but you should also mention what's your current designation and what your current company name. Then you talk about,
okay.
that's the very first part. Like, my
Mm.
name is this. I'm currently working at XYZ company. as XY as PQR, means whatever is your job designation, you can say that. Then next you talk about, I have total 1.3 years of experience. My skill set includes, just mention that like the names and just stop. Like suppose you mentioned like SOQL, LWC, all of that. After that, like mention like a quite whatever are the different skill sets you have. You can go to granular level as well. And instead of just saying like user creation or anything like that, you can say it in a different way, like you're creating the profiles and roles and all of these, right? Right?
Hmm. Yes.
You instead say it the other way around. No, mention it like I performed the user management, making sure the credentials means the users are able to get, means the users are getting the right access based on their roles and profiles. The same thing but a different verbiage, because when you say user creation and all of that, it sounds like you actually lack a lot of technical skills, because this is normally a very basic task.
Yes, that is also true.
Also, like if you want to talk about the project, don't talk immediately. See, it's like you may make the panel wait, like give him some kind of curiosity. Like after you mention your skill set, ask them like whoever is the panel, like if you want me, can I please talk about the recent project which I worked on? Panel would always say yes, because that's what they are most interested in. Then you talk about the project.
Hmm.
Another point in that, never mention the client name. Reason being, it might be possible like your company has sent an NDA and then you're disclosing the client name. So it could land you in legal troubles. So avoid that. Instead, say what's the system
Hmm.
does, like say complaint management or a self-service portal, anything, a general terminology, like it was for a US based client or UK based client, whatever it be.
Hmm.
Next thing that you do is like you explain the project, you mention it in a way like you're covering the customer journey, like how would the user interact with the system. Like suppose I'm like it's a community cloud, then assume like the customers would be given a self-service portal where they would log in. For giving access to the portal, we are giving you customer community login license. Customer community, because don't want reports and dashboard. Another thing is like their cost wise, pricing wise, it's quite less compared to the other licenses. Login based, because we know like they would hardly log out. So this way, customer community login license would be the most suited for our set of requirements. And since they were in the community side, they're able to see the cases raised by them. They're able to update the profiles. Since it's a customer community user, then I would have a contact uh, that is therein under my user object, and then all the sharing that happens, that is happening through sharing set. Sharing set gives you the power, like you where you can, if the OWD is private or it is public read only, you can share that data with the community user by matching the account to contact lookup. This is just an example. Like
Yes,
how
yes.
did you follow like how I makes the business sense according as well as the technical sense in the single view?
Yes, I will try to follow
Take
this
some time.
process.
Yeah. I would say like again like means here. Since you mentioned like worked on the asynchronous epics, so what are the different asynchronous ways of calling epics?
So there are total four ways. Uh, First is a future method. Second is batch apex. We have a queuable apex, and we have a schedule apex.
Okay. So what is the use case for each of them?
For means future method, as the name means asynchronous means they will run parallel to the other.
Yeah, we can talk. Continue now. Yes.
Yes. So so that's the main function of future method is to means when we make callouts to external web services, we use the future method. Also means when we have long running methods and we need to like stop the delay, or we need to prevent the delay in any transaction. So at that point, we use a future method. Uh, and batch apex means when we uh, mm, for jobs that need a large set of query results. So
Hmm.
at that time we use batch apex. Also means for database purpose, when we need to add data or means in a big volume. So at that time we use batch apex. So it prevents the uh,
Let me just kind of summarize like what the answer should be. So future method is used in three use cases. First thing is I want to make a since I want to make a method asynchronous. Why asynchronous? Because I want the response. I don't want the Salesforce to wait for a while and then complete the execution and then transfer it to the user. I want like it should
mhm,
respond quickly. So I would make that method asynchronous. So that's why I use
mhm,
future method. Second use case I have is like mixed GML. Whenever setup and non-setup updates are in the same transaction, Salesforce gives you a mixed GML error.
mhm,
And why the Salesforce impose this error is because during the time, like suppose taking example of say contact and user. So it might happen like user has access to a contact and I'm giving that access to the same transaction. Then it might happen like the transition would fail and data inconsistency might happen. So to prevent that, Salesforce doesn't allow setup and non-setup in the single transaction.
mhm,
Third use case
yes.
I have is like I want to introduce a delay. Like sometimes for some reason, like I want like any code to not execute immediately. I want some level of gap. So I use future method. And also another implementation of this future method is around doing the callouts. Directly future method does not allow callout. So you have to make like at that future callout equal to true to make the API calls.
Mhm, yes.
So these are the use cases for future method. Next comes about the batch class. So batch class we use because we want to process a large number of data. So the Salesforce regular SQL limit is 50,000, but with when it runs in batch mode, the limit gets increased. So the large number of records that are there and
Mhm,
we are able to process. So that's why I use batch epics. And there are some scenarios where we want to do a call out as well. So that also possible from batch class. So we use it for that purpose. Next is around the queuable. We use queuable only for two reasons. First is I want to have multiple jobs put in a queue so that they get executed. Second use case I have is like I want to call a future method for large number of records. Like suppose I have a future method which I want to reuse and process the data means. So I use queuable in conjunction with future method. So that is the use case.
yeah.
The next thing around after the queuable is around the continuation. Continuation is another kind of similar to future method where we have the long running callouts. So the future method allows only 10 seconds to execute, but with continuation, the limit gets increased to 60 seconds. Uh, so typically these are the asynchronous ways of when which epics can get called. So this is how your explanation to it should be, so that it's clear like how it works. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you also mentioned like you did the user management, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now tell me like, can I have a user without any role?
Yes.
But why would I do that? What is the use case
Uh,
where we don't want a user to have any role?
so like if the user is means if everything in the org is confidential and we don't want to share that with that user, so we would not give it any role. Uh, this might be one use case, and
Let me just summarize it for you. So how it should work is we don't put a role only in the scenario where we have a large number of records that are owned by a particular person. So in that scenario, we don't put any role for that user. This is the only use case like why we don't put any role. Otherwise, by default, when you edit a user record, it would show you required.
yes.
Tell me, what is the difference between a role and a profile?
So profile is a basic means profile defines a sets of functions or the permissions the user have, uh, and role is to place them in the role hierarchy of the organization, also to give them access to like another to some things, and the the role above the that role can access the
Uh, Let me just reformulate it. So, how profile determines what you can do, roles say what you can see.
hmm, yes.
And even this roles thing, for standard objects, you already have the grant access using hierarchy. But
Hmm,
if you have any custom objects, you have to set the grant access using hierarchy, the checkbox as true. Then only the manager will be able to see your records.
hmm.
Are you clear about permission sets?
Yes.
When do I use permission set?
So if let's take a scenario. So if there are four users and all of them have one profile, but I want one user to have some extra permission. So uh, without changing the profile, I would create a permission set for that particular profile, and I will give that to the profile to uh, have some extra permissions.
Uh, Whatever you said is right. Initially, that was the only intent. Uh, did you get a chance to read about a recent blog around the profile versus permission set? What should be the profile? What should be in permission set?
So is there anything else like the permission set can do?
Ideally, whatever you said is right. That was the original intent, like to have different
Hmm.
permission sets with the same profile.
Hmm.
But going down the line, like what Salesforce has plans is like in your profile, it should determine what your default record types, your app permissions, your login hours. Only those
Hmm.
things would remain in your profile. Other than that, your object permission, field permissions, system permissions, everything would be controlled in your permission set as per the latest recommendation from Salesforce.
Okay, so means they have excluded some
They have
functionalities.
they had don't they have not because of the community. Otherwise, they had plans to remove it in spring
Okay.
26.
Achha.
So, are you clear about permission set groups?
Yes.
When
Yes, I mean, one or more permission set becomes a group, and we assign that to means if I want a profile to have different permission sets, so I would merge one or two permission sets, and so it is permission means group.
Mm, this is one of the use case layer where you merge multiple permissions. Another advantage you get with permission set group is you have the option of muting the permission as well. Muting means
Hmm.
like you want to reduce the permission set, what permission of like suppose if you have a permission of say create on say particular object in one permission set, and in second one you want second one gives you the edit access as well, and you want like when it's combinedly is assigned to a user, it should not be able to edit, then you can mute that permission as well. So you get the option of
Hmm.
muting in permission set groups.
Yes. And also it allows the admin to like create what we can say mini profiles.
It's actually, I
Uh,
would say not call it mini profiles. What I would say is like mission set group is actually mapped to your job role. Like to perform a particular job, say a call center, then call center should have a permission set group like whatever he would need. Like you would have different permission sets, say one for reports, one for reports and dashboard, one for say viewing the case records, one for custom
mhm,
components like that. So for that particular role, like particular job title, whatever things you need, you should have that in your permission set group and assign that just one public permission set group, and that should take care of everything.
mhm. So permission set group means manages different permission sets
Yes,
according to the user needs.
yes, correct. Uh, uh, do you know about public groups?
Public groups. Public groups.
No worries.
So means
So
yeah, I have read about it. Like for means where we have a large number of Salesforce user. So at at that time we like optimize the public groups for better performance and it brings efficiency.
yeah, so I would like to add a few pointers on that. So where what public group does is like you group a set of users under one uh, set. Why? Because it would help you. Like if you suppose want to share a list view with a particular set of users, then you would be able to do that using public groups. Also, your sharing of records could have been managed using public group, like when it is used with in combination with sharing tools.
Mhm.
So this way, it's used in these two use cases. Apart from that, we also have like queues along with public groups in Salesforce. Queues are basically used for load balancing, where we manage the load of the entire set of users and it is assigned to a queue, and then the individual members of the queue pick up the particular task and work on those items.
Mhm.
So that's the way it works. Next thing is you mentioned about LWC that you worked on that. So what are the different lifecycle hooks that you have in LWC?
Uh, Actually, I mean, so worked on means I got KT on LWC,
No
and I
worries,
was
no worries, no worries.
so I know only the basics. Means I in
Not a problem,
learning phase now.
not a problem, not a problem. So it's like a constructor is there. You have a render connected callback. You have a rendered callback. You have disconnected
Mm-hmm.
callback. You have error callback. So first a
Mm-hmm.
constructor gets called, then you have the connected callback where like it works like document.ready in JavaScript. Then you have rendered callback like when the component is rendered completely. So you use that. So it's similar to window.onload. When everything is done, then it is being called. And then you have the error callback. So if any error comes in, you can do the handling the error callback. Disconnected callback comes into picture like when a particular DOM is removed from your entire page. So that time it gets called. And yeah, the only reason like we learn about these things is because so there's some scenarios where we don't want any user interaction and any user to trigger any function. It sometimes you want like whenever component is loaded, automatically it should get called. So depending upon different lifecycle hooks, we define like that method should get called.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, Whatever I'm saying is common to all of you. Like in any of you have any questions around anything, whatever I'm saying in, feel free to ask. Okay. The next thing is around the difference between var and let. So var is like it is actually having a large scope, means uh, it is kind of having the more scope than as compared to let. And in let, like once we declare a let variable, it can't be declared multiple times. With var you can declare that variable multiple times and it won't cause you any error. And sometimes due to scope differences, the variable does not get the right value, so it's recommended in ES6 that you use the let variable. uh, do you know like how we can do communication between L2 LWC components?
No, right now.
Okay, so we have the option of doing it via events. Another thing, if it's their parent and child, we can pass them as a parameter, like as an not a parameter, as an attribute. You can pass that whatever values you want. Another way is LMS, Lightning Message Service, where we have the Lightning channel, Lightning messaging channel, and where we do the communication between through that. Next thing is around Apex. So, are you clear about with sharing, without sharing, and inherited sharing?
No, actually, I have not worked on this.
Okay. Are you clear about wrapper classes?
Yes, wrapper class I have worked on.
What is the purpose of wrapper class?
So, like it is a like a powerful tool for developers to like it manages complex data and business logics, and we can means benefits of wrapper class is that we can create more maintainable, scalable, and reusable code.
Uh,
And it
I
also
understood. I understood
provides
your
a
feelings.
great
I understood your
uh,
feelings, but technically, what it does is you can have multiple data types that you can club into a single class. And also, when you have data from multiple objects, it helps you kind of orchestrate all of that into a single class. Whatever you said could be summarized in these two pointers.
Mhm.
Also, sometimes if you need any attribute which is not present in database, you can get that populated at in your wrapper class and make it work. Have you worked on flows?
Um,
Hello? Have you worked on flows?
Hello,
Hello, Krishna. Did you work on flows?
hello. I have worked on flows.
Okay, so tell me, what are the different kinds of flows that we have in Salesforce?
Yeah, means yeah, we have five kind of flows here: screen flow, uh, record triggered flow, schedule triggered flow, platform event triggered flow, and auto launch flow.
Okay. Tell me, when do you use auto launch flow?
Auto launch. mm, So whenever the requirement meets, so at that time the uh, 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 this flow means get triggered.
Let me just answer it for you. So basically, auto launch flow is like we break a functionality into multiple auto means we want, like, it is actually a subflow, which we will call it from another auto launch flow or from a record triggered flow or through Apex, which should get called automatically. Like when
Hmm.
you do, so the intent is to modularize. So you create a functionality in a particular auto launch flow, and through record triggered flow, you can call that. So record triggered flows are also categorized into two parts. One is the fast field updates, which is your before flow, and other
Yes,
is your related
or record.
records. So which is your after flow. For calling a subflow, you have to use the after flow or related records flow. And for talking about the scheduled flows, the scheduled flow is like you can schedule a flow to run daily or at a particular time. And then inside your scheduled flow, you can call the auto launch flow, or you can write your put your logic in the scheduled triggered flow itself. Another is your screen flow. So screen flow is like you can create a screen flow where your user clicks on the button or through any other page place on the screen and you want to call a flow. So you can use the screen,
Interactive UI.
yeah, interactive UI. So you can have the screen flow. You can use the LWC component to set the screen flow as well. So you can do the Apex callouts as you can do the call the Apex methods as well from the screen flows. You have to write invocable. Uh, sorry, you have to write or enabled and pass the parameters. So that's the way you have to explain about the flows. Next thing is around your means it won't be directly like panel would definitely ask you to write a code, so be prepared for that. Can you tell me about different trigger context variables?
Yeah, so we have the major type is before and after, and we means and trigger context variable includes before delete, after delete, before insert, after insert, uh, be, before undelete, and be, before before update, after update.
These are actually callbacks, actually, I would say. Trigger context variables include like trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.old map, trigger.new map.
Yes.
What you said about were the different callbacks that you have.
Yes. Trigger dot new map, trigger dot old dot old map is executing, and
Tell me a scenario where trigger.new would be null.
so whenever the collections is whenever the involvement of collection is there, collection of means list or set. At that time we use trigger dot new because it returns us the list.
Uh, I would rephrase that. So, trigger.new would be null only in the scenario of after delete because the deletion has already happened. So, you would only have the trigger.old because the deletion is already done. So, it would be null. I was asking about that. Trigger.old when it will be null.
Sorry, trigger dot old,
Yes.
can it be null?
Trigger.old can be null. Like if suppose it's trigger dot means if it's in before insert, it would be null, right?
No, means before insert in trigger dot old there might be some data. So
One second, like how you are visualizing, actually I wanted to know. Like, give me 1 minute, let me just share a chart. The trigger.old directly variable. Sorry, my bad. So before trigger, you will not have the ID, but still you will have the trigger.own the set of records. Do you know about what's the default size of trigger? Default size, batch size.
default size of trigger,
No, means default batch size. It's 200.
200 records, yes.
If suppose I insert 400 records at one go, what would happen? How many times the trigger would get
Means
called? Or it would throw an error?
so means At 201th record, it will throw an error.
No, the way it works is like if suppose you have 400 records, it breaks it. The trigger gets called two times.
50.
It breaks the records into two chunks. So after 201, it would again call the trigger and execute it for that. So it breaks it into
Okay,
chunks.
yes, yes, yes. The maximum size is 2000, and in a single go, it is 200, right?
Yeah, when you do it via trigger, it would takes the default batch size as 200 and executes it accordingly. And when we do it
Mhm.
via batch class, we can have it up to 2000.
Yes.
So the next thing is you mentioned about you worked on flows, you worked on LWC, Apex also. So tell me the best practice of writing Apex code.
Best practice. For trigger, it is like on every object there should be one trigger, only one, and we should not write whole logic in the trigger. We should use helper class, and we should call that helper class in trigger.
Okay. Tell me why do we do that?
Uh, so means when the code gets bigger and bigger, uh, so it it becomes very difficult to catch the means functionality. So that's why we
No,
follow the best practice.
yeah, the best practices is there. I agree. Whatever you said is also right. But the core intent is to increase the reusability. See, whenever we write any code in the trigger, then we'll have to create separate methods inside the trigger itself. So every time like logic is there, suppose it can happen like whatever logic that you're calling in trigger, that would be same that you would need it in your regular controller as well.
Hmm.
So to have it more reusable, Salesforce says like don't write any logic in trigger, instead create helpers, and even it recommends actually using the enterprise pattern like where we have the domain classes as well. So whatever is your logic, you put that in your domain class, have the trigger handle the different callbacks and just process whatever is the data coming in from the domain class. That is the recommended approach, but in short, if someone asks, you can just say like to have more reusability. That's why we have only we don't try, we make the triggers logicless.
Hmm.
And second, another point you mentioned about is like only one trigger per object. Why? What will happen if I have multiple? Will it throw an error? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. So if suppose there are multiple triggers that are written on a particular object, what will happen?
Uh, so if means it is it is not a best practice, and also the drawbacks is like it might throw error at any point of time whenever two triggers are triggered at a single time.
Yeah. So what you said is right. We can simplify the language to say like whenever there are multiple triggers on the same object, we can't predict the order of their execution.
Yes.
So it might result in the record locking as well. So to avoid that kind of situation, it's recommended to have only one trigger per object.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. Another thing is like best practice is don't hard code any IDs. Now you tell me the reason why I should not hard code any ID.
Yeah, means every suppose if I'm going to create a record, and if I'm hard coding any ID, so every time it will create record for that ID only. For means so it should be like we should not provide the hardcore values there, names, IDs, phone number, etc. Because every time we need to change them, and it is time consuming.
Uh, Whatever you said is right. So, but the better way to formulate it is when we say like don't hard code any IDs because IDs are org dependent. For each environment, the values were different. So
Mhm.
that's why it's recommended like don't hard code the IDs. dynamically get those values in and then process accordingly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think Krishna, we had questions for you. Now I think we can take some time for Ayush. So
Yes.
yeah, Ayush.
Hi, Ankit.
Yeah, hi Ayush. So let's get started with your brief introduction.
Yeah. So my name is Ayush Sharma, and I've been in Salesforce environment for like 5+ years. I started my career as a Salesforce developer, and my current position is as Salesforce Dev Lead. I have experience with different Salesforce clouds like Service Cloud, Community Cloud, Sales Cloud, CPQ, etc. I have a good hands-on on different Salesforce automations like Apex batches, triggers, flows, and process builders, workflows, etc. Uh, I have some good experience with CI/CD tools like DevOps, GitHub, GitLab to manage the version control. And I am currently 7x certified. The major ones are like PD2, MuleSoft Developer 1, CPQ Specialist, and Pandora Specialist.
Okay. You talk about the recent project which you worked on.
So currently, as a dev lead, I have been handling multiple projects. So right now, I'm dealing with three projects where in one of them I am working with the FinServ, like Financial Service Cloud, where we are configuring a project for a mortgage company, and we are configuring a lead omnichannel routing for them. The routing is not it will be a skill-based routing, and we have to do some kind of development as well there to provide some customization how the lead will route. And in another project, I am configuring the community cloud plus service cloud, so that where we are utilizing the chatbot to have a uh, live agent chat on the community that is being managed in the backend with agent configurations. Along with that, I am also dealing with a project where we are working over NetSuite integration with Salesforce using Boomi. I have experience with Boomi and Jitterbit as well, and plus the MuleSoft Composer when integrating Salesforce with NetSuite. So these three projects we are currently working on. My role generally contains helping team with technical blockers, helping them with any kind of code related issues they face, reviewing the code if they are following all the coding standards, and yeah.
Uh, I would say like although you worked on three projects, uh, select any one project which you are most comfortable upon and start with that journey of the whatever, or I mean, suppose any particular
Mhm.
thing that you developed, how does the business actually, business workflow works out? Like where the customer journey starts, how it routes to the different, like, suppose it's like, I assume, like, it's like you mentioned about, like, there's a
Mhm.
lead omni-channel routing is there, and
Yes.
so there would be some call, there would be some CTI implementation as well.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, so you can
So
explain it in a way. No, I'm just giving you an
mm,
example, like how should you
okay.
explain? You know the project better, so you would be able to do that.
Mhm.
So you should say like the journey of the customer. The first when you talk about, like, it's like what was the business project or business outcome that was expected of the project. Like they wanted to cut short on the improve the KPIs for the call centers, right? That was
Mhm.
the nutshell, I would say.
So
Is
should
that
I go for the variety of the projects, or should I just focus on one project and go deep
one
with
project,
that?
one project, and go deep with that. It should be in so
Okay.
much.
Okay.
It should cover around 15 minutes.
Yes. Okay. Makes sense.
So whenever you talk about the project, mention it like from the user journey. Like the intent of the project was to improve the KPIs for the call center agents. So the client was from one of the top mortgage companies.
Mhm.
So the user would do a call, and the call would be routed. The CTI is being configured in the Salesforce. For that, we're using, say, Genesis adapter. And here we have like what we got the lead omnichannel routing, which would be a skill-based routing. For implementing the skill set-based routing, for each of the call center agent, we have the different skills that are associated with them. So we're utilizing a Service Cloud license for the call center users so that they get access of the case object. There are for each skill, the skill is the skills that are therein means we determine the skills that are needed for that particular case based on the keywords that are available. So based on the different keywords, it's assigned to an agent to make sure like the call center agent is able to solve that particular issue in a particular time. We have different SLAs in place. Also, we have the escalation rules that are available. We have the entitlement process. So whenever the SLA is breached, it's assigned to the manager and he receives the email notification. And then the agent has to close that out. And for the closing that, we should know like what was the root cause. So we get that updated in the comments in the case object itself. And that the journey goes on. And if there's any community cloud implementation for the same, you can talk about it the year itself. Like they also have a
Okay.
self-service portal. I think you got the intent, right?
Yeah, I got your point. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I covered
have the journey
everything.
in my mind. Yeah.
Everything like whatever is there. That's pretty much like I don't know anything about your project. What I know is like
Yeah.
typically how it should work. You mentioned one word, and that's how the business flow should kind of simulate.
Okay. Yeah.
So now you're like since you mentioned about this project, then your next interview questions would be mostly around the service cloud.
Actually, this project is for the financial service cloud, where they
Okay.
kind of manage both sales and service at the same place. They using the person account here
Okay.
because they are selling the mortgages, so they actually the normally the person they
It's a
sell
bit
for the company.
yeah, it's B2C business, clear cut.
Yes. Yes.
So tell me about the different capabilities that you have in financial service cloud.
So financial service cloud mainly provides you an object that comes with this package. There is a managed package called FinServe that we are using, and it will provide you different objects that you can utilize to provide kind of an object overview, how you are going to manage the loans that you are getting. So if I go with what do I say? Like there are different objects for the loan, and I mean there's an object model that is mainly provided. There are no kind of
See,
functionality that it keeps.
what you're telling is everything right from the technical stuff. Like here, what is actually expected is you bring out the core capabilities. Like as financial services is more about asset management, that is its core ability. You talk about what is the core ability of that particular cloud. If you don't have the answer for that, not a problem. But what I would want means if suppose I worked on say community cloud or I worked on sales cloud, service cloud, I should know what is the actual use case, like what problem it does solve for me. You can go over the official
Okay.
Salesforce site and go through the different capabilities that are therein. The next.
Yeah.
So in financial service cloud,
Yeah, so
you are my yeah, means you are doing the asset management.
oh, not the asset management we are doing. So the workflow for the business is like they kind of have a portal where you can go and fill out their applications, and then there is a custom object in the Salesforce that they have created. That's called lead staging. So after that portal that you have filled information, a partial filled application might come in the Salesforce through the integration, and after that we kind of have the custom conversion process for leads from lead staging to lead, where we identify if this lead staging can be a potential duplicate. Then based on the situations, we merge or create the new leads. And then we have a CTI integration where we use these numbers that are available on the lead to do the callouts. We are integrated with the Ring Central CTI here. Um, so based on whatever the interaction sales rep have with the clients, whoever want to purchase any kind of property and looking for mortgage, we the sales rep discuss with them, and then leads are kind of converted into person accounts and opportunities for further business.
So two questions. First thing is like lead staging to lead, like you could have that as a particular lead. In lead itself, you could manage it, the qualification process. So I didn't follow like why we need a custom lead staging object here. That is one
Yeah.
part.
Mm.
So another question that I have is like after the lead is being converted, you said like you have the custom lead conversion. So when you're doing that custom lead conversion, so everything is custom built for that, like the custom screens and the lead mapping as well.
No, lead mappings are using standard. We are using the lead convert, that is standard method, database dot convert that we are using. So why we have coded there is that just to find out if there an existing account that is coming over from the lead staging to lead, and
Okay,
if there is a related account field, then we are just setting a default person account for to convert the lead so that a new account will not be created.
okay.
And
Next thing is you mentioned about like you worked on Pardot.
yes, I mean I have very some experience over Pardot, not not like some kind of too
Not
much,
a
but yeah. Yeah.
do you know what's the use case for doing using Pardot?
Yeah, so the use case that the Pardot will be used is mainly for the B2B, where you would like to sell your goods to a business. And so the main thing that Pardot provides, there are several tools that you can use on your portal. For example, there's a page action. So whenever someone comes to your website, a page action will trigger, and you will be notified. A prospect will be created in your Salesforce, it's in your Salesforce account, that the prospect is like uh, a stage before the lead. That can be a potential lead, but it is now just a prospect because he has visited your website. He showing some kind of interest. You can also log where he clicks and all of those stuff, and you can.
Uh, is it possible? Like I think means I thought like in Marketing Cloud only you have like the journey builder where you can track like whether it's clicked and where the journey went.
In Pardot, we also have that builder where
Okay,
you can do that, and
okay,
you can track each and every clicks that he's been doing, and that data will be stored on the prospect level, and
okay,
then you can kind of run the reports, and at the end you can convert the prospect into a lead and do the further business.
okay, got it. Now tell me like you worked on the Experience Cloud as well, right?
Yes.
So tell me like what are the different sharing rules in Salesforce?
Different sharing rules.
Yeah, different types of sharing
So,
rules, I mean.
def yeah, so like the owner based and criteria based are the ones that we used for the uh, to share the records within the Salesforce. Uh, and we can also use them for the community as well if you are using the plus license. But if we are using only the default community user license, then we use the sharing sets, where we have some limitations like a field should be related, like any of the contacts field. Like for the example, you have contact, you have account, and then you that should be related for the record that you want to share. So you can configure that in the digital settings here. And
Uh, I would like to add here like we also have a guest sharing rule.
guest sharing rules.
Yes.
Guest sharing rules I have not used.
If suppose any guest you want to give access, like suppose there is an e-commerce, taking
Mm,
into a simple example, I am not
mhm,
logged in. I want to still see the products
yeah.
that are available. So how would I do that? So for that kind of purpose, where we want to just give the read access of those records, we can
Mhm.
create guest sharing rules.
Okay. So like for a community, a site is already created, right? Whenever we create a community. So on the site, if we go and
Yeah.
in this guest sharing rule, where is it created? Can you point me out that specific?
And the sharing rule itself, it should be there. Let me just see, like if I have any, or if that is readily available where I can show you. But I think that should be pretty much available. I think whatever other orgs that I had, they are like, I don't have the access of those. But you can search on the net around guest sharing
Mm,
rule.
okay.
So it's pretty much
Yeah.
available. So that you can use. Another thing that you
Okay.
mentioned very rightly around the plus license, like what exactly you get so that you are able to configure sharing rules when with plus license.
With the plus license, we can also get the case teams that you can configure to share the records.
No.
Uh,
What I means, let me
mm,
just go to the answer. Like what actually I expected. I actually expected like you tell about portal rules, because of that portal rules that can being enabled. Then because of that portal rules only you are able to use them in their sharing rules with the plus license.
mhm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Mhm. Cannot we add community users with the plus license in a public group?
Plus license we can add it in the public group, but also we get the portal roles.
Yeah, that will be default role we get.
Actually, the way it would work out is you can create a public group, and inside public group you can place
Mhm,
the portal roles,
mhm.
and then use that sharing rule with the public group and give the access.
Then we can just directly use the role as well, right, in the
Yeah,
sharing
yeah.
role.
But
I think.
exact role you won't be getting in, because when you use the plus license, you would need the portal
Mhm.
role, because your role, regular role, would be based on whatever account that is there in.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So you mentioned in one of the projects around the chatbot. So tell me, like, how which means what configuration that you have done for that chatbot, and exactly why do we use a chatbot in the first place?
So chatbot will be used to kind of provide a better pre-chat form where you will get a better control over collecting the data from the user or the whatever the user actually wants. You can provide them options. Just for an example, um, in a pre-chat form that you create in an embedded setting, that will just open a form, you can fill it, and it will either uh, write you to the agent or create your case. But in bot chat, you can just have different kind of menus. Like if you want to navigate a user to a specific page on the community, you would like to run a auto launch flow and collect the information and show it on the screen, or call the apex as well, or you can just direct them to agent if he is available. So you will get a more control over the embedded chat if you use chatbot.
Okay, if suppose I have to use that, like you would have used LWC along with the chatbot, right? You would have
I,
implemented the interface and worked with that only, right?
no. I checked that. I don't think the LWC was available for the for chatbot.
Chatbot LWC should be available.
I mean, if it's available, it could have solved one of our problem that we are facing in current project.
Actually, there is. I will just give you a link. Okay, no, sorry. It's like recently only it's available, but the people they have actually you embedded using this thing, OpenAI.
Oh,
Uh, so it's fine. So Now tell me, like, when you use those AI, means chatbots, so what's
Mhm.
the any like you use the screen flows inside that, or how do you make it work?
So the chatbot, you cannot either have the screen flows, but you can create the menus there. Menu is kind of thing where you can create clickable buttons in a chatbot, and you can define action for each menu item there. So you can then, on the starting of the chat or any specific scenario, like you have received some kind asked a question, and based on the response, you can show different kind of menus there, and they have different actions like navigating to the page, showing a knowledge article, and running a flow, etc.
Okay. So you mentioned about knowledge article. So what license means to what are the license requirements for viewing the knowledge article?
I think knowledge one uh, license is required for that, and service cloud as well
No, I'm saying for viewing it, not creating.
for viewing. I think knowledge one.
So you just need to have the knowledge enabled, and it should be published outside of your applications. Means for you need to get the knowledge published, means knowledge articles that are then you need to publish those, and then you have to give the access to the particular knowledge article types that are
Data
therein.
category, data
Yeah,
categories related.
data categories
Mm,
as well as you would need to give the article types, right? Access as well.
mhm. Yeah, I thought you were asking for the license that we need.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to create the topics as well on the community to give access actually. There's a lot.
Yeah. Next thing is around like you worked on the LWC.
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me when do I use @wire and when do I use the connected callback for doing the Apex callout?
Yeah, so the wire decorator is like it will be an asynchronous. It will get you the data from the Apex, or there are some standard processes, libraries that Salesforce provides. You can also utilize that. But anyway, it will do the asynchronous process, get you the data, and you can, whenever it returns a promise, you can do your logic. The good thing about wire is that it is a cacheable, so it does not puts a lots of load on the server, and uses the data in the cacheable memory whenever possible. But in the connected callback, uh, it like the connected callback has a life cycle. So after the constructor, it's being called, and then it will get the data. So you have to, like, if you want to call the Apex, you have to call it imperatively inside the connected callback, or there, and that will, I think, run in a synchronous way uh, there in the connected callback.
Okay, let's rephrase the means. It means when do I go with @wire and when do I do imperative calling? If I have to ask that, then what will be your answer?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Uh, Suppose I want to do an imperative calling, what are the disadvantages? And if I use @wire, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages?
So imperative calling will, I don't think it will use the cacheable memory there, but in wire, every method needs to be cacheable, first thing. And wire will be kind of initialized on its own. You do not have to call them inside a connected callback. And yeah, I think these two are the
The
most
important,
advantages. Yeah.
uh, the other part is like you can't do any DML inside a,
Yes,
uh,
there is. Yeah, there is no DML in the wire method.
yes, and yeah, overall that's all summarizes to that.
Mhm.
And the next thing is around like life cycle hooks. So I think you would have already uh, got input on that, like
Yeah,
about the constructors and all
in
of that.
previous, yeah, in
Yeah,
previous question.
yeah. So tell me the difference between var, let, and constant.
Constant is like, if you can declare it, and you can only define it once. and you can manipulate its value. For example, I have set a constant a equals to 0. I can do constant plus 1 equals to 1, but I cannot say that constant a equals to I cannot reset its value again, cannot initialize it. But the let variable you can initialize again, and in whichever block you define that let variable, it will be part of only that. So it saves the memory on the client side. I mean, both saves the memory. You just need to define the requirement of that variable. If you are setting some kind of static string, just use a constant. And if you're thinking that you need to reinitialize this value or changing the value of this variable multiple times with your code, then just use let.
Okay. Tell me, like, if suppose I have to call an apex method from LWC, what is the annotation I would need? And
Or
what is
enabled.
okay? And if I have to pass a parameter,
Mhm.
can I pass a single parameter, a single variable, or I would need to pass a list?
From LWC to Apex, you need to
Yeah.
pass the values.
Yes.
I think you can pass both. It does not accept set and map, although, but list it will accept because it will be kind of denoted as an array. So you can pass that, and you can also pass the single variable as well. I think a single value is definitely you can pass. And to pass an object, either you have a wrapper class created in your Apex class with the same structure that you are passing, or you need to pass it in a string format first, then convert it into using JSON.dc base.
Okay. Yeah, very well said. So I suppose, can I call a auto launch flow from Apex?
Yes.
Okay. What is the signature of parameters of for auto launch flow?
Auto
Like
launch flow, yeah,
if
you need
suppose
to
like
yeah, you
when
need
I
to create a map of the key contains a variable, and value will be the value you want to pass. And in the auto launch flow, you have to make the variables as available for input so that you can accept the values.
no, actually I wanted to dive it deeper. Like it would be a string comma object. That's what I actually wanted to hear.
String comma object.
Yeah, it's a map.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the fixed
Yeah,
signature.
okay. You just wanted to ask a signature, yes, because object is like a universal. You can pass any kind of value there. So it's
Yeah,
sorry.
not a problem.
I should yeah, that's one problem I identified. I should have listened. Yeah.
Not a problem. It happens. Uh, Did you? Okay, so we are talking about the flows. So the next part is if suppose I have to call up or means I have to call Apex from flows. So what is the method signature and what's the method annotation I would need to use?
So you need to make the method as invocable, and you need to define the input variables here as well, whatever you want to expect in the Apex. Then if you want to pass the multiple variables or just a single variable, you need to kind of create a wrapper class there in the Apex, and the each variable should be defined as invocable variable. Only then they will be available in your
And
flow when you are
you
using
have
the
to use
action.
you'll have to use a list because actually Salesforce what it says
Yes,
is like you will have to have a list because it want forces you to
it's bulkified code.
bulkification here.
Yeah, that accepts a list. And
Yeah,
because
on the
mm,
I would like to add one more information here, which I think many people miss. Many people think like flows get called multiple times and there is no bulkification that needs to be done. Like if you are using any at that invocable method, like they still take single variable, like it passes as a list of variable, but still they use the dot get zero and process the records accordingly. But the truth is like what Salesforce does is like whenever you're calling an Apex method and passing the list, so if there's a multiple records that are there and suppose you write an insert insert line like insert list of accounts, So what it would do is like before the means it would process all the records in that flow till and wait until the apex is getting called, because what it would then do is whatever are the 100 records that are therein, all of them would reach the method at a single time. It won't be like one by one the apex will get called multiple times. It would be only one time the apex would get called and all the records will be processed in a single go, which many people have the misconception. So I want to clear that out.
Yes.
Most people I have
Yes.
seen like they ignore this bulkification. They think like only the triggers need to be bulkified. The aura means they can escape with that invocable method.
Salesforce had designed it very wonderfully actually. You only see like the only one record is being processed, but it makes it easy for the admins and developers to write down the flow if they have included bulkification flow as well as the in the user interface. It would be really hard, but they managed everything at the back end.
Yeah. Have you done any means you mentioned like you have done some integrations, right?
Yes.
So tell me about the different integration patterns that we have in Salesforce.
I'm not sure about this term, patterns here.
So okay, let me just give you a
For
cue.
example, like REST APIs.
No,
Yeah,
these are the
just an
mechanisms.
example.
Yeah. So like
Mm.
fire and forget, request and reply, batch synchronization, data virtualization. Then you have like UI data update, and then fire and forget I already mentioned. Then I think these are the ones. Most commonly we use request and reply. Do you know about these terms what I talked about, or shall I explain?
I've not heard these terms actually.
Not a problem. I will just summarize it for you. So request and reply is like, I will give a real-time example. Like in your controller, Apex controller you have written, you want to do an API call out, you write http.send in your controller itself. What it would do, it would hit that API and wait for its response. And if that response comes in, it would give you the result. Typically, that's
Yes.
the way we write the code, right? So this is your request and reply, because your Salesforce is waiting like when you get until you get the API response. And,
Correct.
and suppose if you don't get the response within 10 seconds, you get a call out exception.
True.
So this is your request and reply. And fire and forget is like I have means all of you are familiar with platform events.
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me then take a more simple example, like future method. Okay, like sometimes, like suppose I have to call a future means I have to do an API call out. Like after a case status is changed, not case like order status is changed to say active. Sorry, processed. Then I want to send do an API call out to my say SAP system to do some order fulfillment, or take some other picklist values, for example. So it is based on the record. So what I would do is like, I will have to write there's two options, like either I use a flow and then call the apex, or second is like I write the entire thing in the trigger itself. So if suppose I do it by trigger, I won't be able to do a call out. So what I do is like I use a future method and then I do the call out using @future equal to true. So here like that @future whatever is, then it would run asynchronously. It won't wait for the response to come back immediately. So it is like a fire and forget. It won't wait for the response to come back. You don't
Bulk
have,
API can be example of this.
yes, even bulk API is an example of fire and forget.
So whatever is like asynchronous APIs, we can say it is fire and
Yes,
forget.
yes.
Okay.
And next is bulk batch data synchronization. Batch data synchronization, basically what it means is like you have a lot of records. Like suppose like same example of orders. Like what you have is like your large number of data, and then that you want to move it to your SAP system for fulfillment. So here you would do what you will do is like you will create a batch class, and then hit the APIs, or either yeah, that's the one way of from Salesforce to external system. So here you will write a batch class and do the batch processing. So it's called batch data synchronization, this integration pattern where you have a large number of data. The next is UI data update. UI data update is like sometimes like two people, like two call center, contact center agents are opening the same case record. And if suppose one changes, the other gets there, like someone else is modifying that same record. So at the same time, like asynchronously, or even if you make a payment on your IRCTC or any other website, unless you after you make the payment, automatically the page gets refreshed. So UI is getting updated without any intervention from the user on that website. How is it happening? Because of streaming API.
Correct.
Streaming API is kind of a similar to your PubSub model only. So you have a publisher, you have a subscriber, and then the things happen. So this is the UI data update. The next is data virtualization. Data virtualization is like your Salesforce Connect. Data is outside, but I want to view the reports and dashboard inside my Salesforce. But why do I do that? Because I want a centralized view, like all the reporting I am able to manage through my Salesforce only. So these things what I talked about are known as the integration patterns.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, there are various videos on Epic servers related to that if you want
Yeah.
to.
I mean, I have done these type of integration, but I'm not familiar with these terms. I mean,
Jargons
I've
are
not heard.
important.
Yeah, that's really important. True.
Yeah, so this is one part. The next is around you mentioned like you work with Dell Boomi and MuleSoft. So
Composer.
yeah, okay, MuleSoft Composer you worked on. Okay,
Yes. And Jitterbit
uh,
middleware as well.
okay. So tell me like why do I actually need a middleware?
Middleware will be mostly required when you have several integrations that you need to manage. For example, you have different layers of where you are interacting with the customers, or you have the processes that you need to uh, manage between those integrations interaction. Then you will need a middleware because of these different integration, it can make it hard to have it configured at just one point. So what the middleware provides you is that you do not have to make changes in the different system. You can just have the integration set up in one point, and whatever changes you want to make based on the business requirements, you might be changing something. Then just need to make changes in that one point instead of making changes in the servers database or in
Uh,
any systems that you have.
I know whatever you said is right, but here like few technical terms are actually needed. Like when you answer
Mhm.
this, like you have to talk about the retry mechanism, you have to talk about the process orchestration. Whatever you said is perfectly right. I don't disagree to that.
Yes.
But you have to also talk about the retry mechanism and orchestration. Retry mechanism, why? Because it would help me like if there is only one middleware, like I can configure like how many times I would like if the API I'm not getting the response, I can easily configure like till how many times I'm able to, I should retry that. If there are multiple, if I don't do that and I have point to point, like for each of the system, I will have to write the retry mechanism for all of them. So with middleware, I won't be able to orchestrate means I'm able to have the retry mechanism configured only at once. And it's like a single point of failure. So just a few jargons you have to say while you talk about the middleware. I just want to know, like you wouldn't used Boomi. So what was the adopter like? Was it platform event based or how it was?
Both the things you can uh, create a soap API there and soap API calling there. So it will kind of listen for your API callouts, and then you can just make it from the Salesforce using Apex. And for the platform and subscriber that it provides, but I've not used. But it provides like if you publish the events from Salesforce, it can subscribe and can run your flow. And Other than that, it also provides you to schedule your integrations.
Okay. Tell me, like, you have worked on the test classes, right?
Yes.
So tell me about see all data equal to true. Why do I have that option?
There could be different scenarios when we need that, but overall the see all data will provide you like all the queries that you will be running in your test class. They can actually query your data that is in your org, that is not available for the test classes normally. That is only applicable when you use that. So although I have never been used that see all data, because most of the time situations like you can create some dummy records and it is resolved.
Uh,
Mm,
See, the my intent means the reason. Let me just explain about like this question. So,
mm,
see all data equal to true. The option is given by default, but Salesforce recommends it to be false. Then the question arises: why does Salesforce give that option itself? Because
mm,
for reports and dashboard and for connect API that we is available for updating the user profile, we still need the see all data. So that's the reason Salesforce has kept it open ended, but still wants us against using that. That is the core use of see all data. Have you used @, test setup?
yes.
Okay. What's the advantage I get?
So the advantage you get over that is you just need to write down the insertion of the data at one place, and every time all of your test whenever the any of your test method getting called, before that your test setup will be called and it will create you a fresh data that you can query in your test methods. So it kind of provides the code reusability, and also it all the data that is inserted are are created with in the text context. So you also saved from your governor limits over there.
Okay. Tell me the use of start test and stop test.
So start test and stop test will provide you like it's the same thing. It kind of starts your test context from there, and in which if you call your method, it will be running in the text context, and all the limits that should be applied for a normal Apex contest that will not be applied here.
Uh, I would like to make additional pointers here. What test.start test
Yes.
does test.start test does is it refreshes your governor limits, so it gives you a
Okay.
fresh limit. But and test.stop test, what it does is like if there's any asynchronous
Asynchronous.
process, it would force it to become synchronous.
Yes. Yeah, that is really useful for testing out Apex batches of future methods. So
Yeah,
if you
that
use
is a
asserts
core.
after that, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you should actually do it. Like after the stop test is done, then you apply the assertions.
Mm.
Okay. You have used SQL quite well, I guess. Hello. So you,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Mm.
So tell me about with security enforced.
So with security enforced, um, I think whenever you are using a class with without sharing and you want to have a query with on the security of that specific user who is running the SOQL, the query will be running in his context and data will be returned according to the sharing you have set up.
Yeah, that's right. And what would happen is like suppose you don't have the FLS or the object level access, it would throw you an error. The important part is it throws you an error. Other option is like strip in dot inaccessible. Have you heard about that?
Yes, that method actually applies over the object level, right? Is accessible and
No,
on
no,
the
no.
field as well.
Strip inaccessible.
No, I have not used that. Is it in SOQL clause?
Not in the SQL clause, but it's a regular method. Strip inaccessible.
Okay, no, I have not used it.
So what it does is like what are the fields that are not the user does not have the FLS, it skips that one. and doesn't throw you an error.
From an object of record.
Fields. Yeah. Let me just give that link in the chat itself.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So with user mode, with system mode, are you clear with that?
Yes.
With system mode is like it would not respect, means it would run in system context. So whatever is your org-wide or OWD, it would give you the results according to that. It wouldn't check like whether you have the edit access or it means record level things. It would directly just let it go.
Okay.
There are the different kinds of controllers that we have in Salesforce. I think you should know that. It's like recent people don't know about it, but I think you should I think know about that, I guess. At that
You
time,
mean
like the
for the
standard
Salesforce?
at that time we had the standard controller, standard set
Yes, and
standard
standard
control
set control.
standard controller, extension, and custom controller.
Yeah, custom controller is also there, and extension is also there. But these were used in Visual Force.
Yeah,
So standard
quite
control
a-
was like if you want to create a page for that should be
Sta-
there for this
yeah,
standard object.
yeah, similar to a standard controller. What functionality do we have in LWC?
Yeah, to standard controller. The constructor in the LWC side.
No. UI API. Like suppose with standard controller, you were able to do the DMLs, you were able to do the queries without writing any code. You were just calling that.
Lightning data service.
Lightning Data Service is the terminology for Aura, but with LWC, it's you are called UI API.
Okay, so the term is changed, but I think the thing
Intent
is
is
same.
same.
Is
Intent
that
is
right?
same. Yeah, intent is same.
Intent is same. Okay. Yeah, it is really helpful, and it also
Sorry,
actually
and LWC also it's
respects
called
all the securities.
yeah, it's Lightning that yeah, it's the terminology is like they have changed it recently. Like they call it Data UI API instead of Lightning Data Service. So it's pretty much the same thing. Another important part is around like GraphQL as well. GraphQL also is a new feature that is available where you can do all those kind of things, but it consumes yeah. Have you used or heard about GraphQL?
I have heard about GraphQL APIs that kind of combines a lots of things, and you can use that
Yeah,
to
yeah,
perform multiple logics in one callout.
yeah.
Yeah. Similar
So,
thing is like composite API is also there.
yeah, Composite API is also there. But I like one thing about GraphQL, like it means if you want to change the structure of response, that also you can do. That I like the most.
So the request body that you are setting, you can
Response that is being
uh,
returned.
response. Okay, so response you can manipulate.
Yeah, the format.
Okay, the structure that is coming. Okay.
Yeah, since you are actually would be interviewed as a lead or like 5 years you already crossed. So if you have to scale, learn about these latest things as well, because you would
Okay.
be involved in the decision making around like what integration has to be done, how the integration should be there, and whether we can do something out of the box or any REST APIs like Salesforce recommends like you write less of the less custom code and use the standard APIs as much as possible. So
Yes.
there's GraphQL, there's tooling APIs. You should be hands-on on those things.
Yes.
Uh, I think yeah. So we were around the Lightning Data Service and GraphQL. Now tell me, like there are two people, or means two contact center agents which have the same profile, same permissions, same role. Still, one is able to see the record, other is not able to see. What are the possible reasons? two people, same role, same profile, same permission set. Still one is able to see the record, other is not able to see.
The record level sharing, it's possible that some users are in a certain public group and some aren't.
Both are no, both are in the same public group only.
Okay.
So let me answer that. So means see here, it's like a trick question. Whatever your answer is, did I mention anything about the OWD? I know like you thought, like you assumed like already the OWD is private, but still you have to, like when a panel asks you this kind of tricky questions, no, you have to tell them like I assume like OWD is private before answering.
Yeah.
So the answer is like one is the record is manually shared and there is no sharing rule on using those public groups.
I mean, another answer could be both users are, one is internal and another one is external, and OWD is different.
That like I mentioned, like both are okay. I didn't mention explicitly around the like internal. I mentioned the same profile as well, I guess.
Yeah, same profile. Yeah, that
The
is
profile,
one person.
yeah, profile was different, so it can't be same internal and external.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So we talked about this, so manual sharing. So do you know about epic sharing?
Yes.
So tell me how that table is being organized.
So in that Apex sharing object, you can have a specific records that you want to share in a certain field, and you can also have the user there. Then you have to provide a reason there, like why you are sharing, what could be the possible reason you are sharing this record. And once you insert that, and the sharing will be accessed for that user. And for the custom objects, this object is automatically created that is named as your object name underscore and share. And for standard object, there is no underscore. For like for the account, it will be account share.
Just a slight correction, like user or group ID it accepts. It's record
User
ID, user or group ID, and row cause or
row
row,
cause, yeah.
and the default value is manual.
Okay.
Do you know the disadvantages of using this row cause manual?
I mean, I think when you do a manual sharing, it also creates the same record with this row cause. And it can be hard at sometimes to whenever you are checking for the sharings on for a particular record to see if it is just a manual, you will not realize why he has the access. So there should be a
This is one.
significant information.
This is just one aspect. The main problem is like if the owner is changed, the whatever other manual sharing is done, all are lost. Those records get deleted.
Oh,
That's the most. That's the only reason like people actually create custom row causes.
that's what do I say? Yeah, these two things. I mean, it only comes with the experience actually.
Yeah, not a problem. Uh, Tell me about the security model of Salesforce.
Yeah, so for the security model, there are two types of sharing. We have like for the record level sharing and the metadata level sharing. So on the record level, we can start with this OWD settings that we set for the org by default. So from there, things are started. You can share a default sharing model for your objects. Then you can create the sharing rules. Two types of sharing rule: owner based and criteria based. Then there are restriction rules as well that you can create to have certain conditions there to restrict the access for those specific condition from sharing to a user.
Pause for a minute.
Then
Pause for a minute. I have a follow-up question on that. Why actually I have the restriction rule in place? What is the
restriction
need?
rule are in the what is the need. So uh, for a like there are 10 peoples, okay, and you would like to have like there are 10 types of records as well, but for the rest of the 8 people you want to have them access of all 10 types, but for the 2 people you want to have them just access of these 8 types of records. So you can create a restriction rule for certain condition and add them in that group.
Yeah, well explained. And we can also say it the same thing in a different way. Like sometimes you want to do an order, or what you don't, you can't change the OWD. So, but still you want to restrict. So that's why you use restriction rules.
Yes, yes.
We can say it in that way as well. The same
Yeah,
thing.
that's actually a simpler way. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, after
after that,
restriction.
you can use the rules and hierarchy to share the records, and there are different things as well, like account teams. You can create case contact roles and case teams. These will also provide some level of sharing for the records. And on the profile level as well, you get two options for an object like view all and modify all. So if you give view all, the user of that specific file can see all the records, and on modify all, they can modify all the records of that specific object. Then you can do manual sharing, and Apex sharing is also available. So on the metadata level, you get the profile and permission sets. So on the profile, you can manage the layout assignments, record type assignments, specific fields. They should be accessible, specific what kind of operation they can do on the profile, on a specific object like create, read, edit, delete. You can manage that, and you can have some system permissions there, like they can run the flow, they can do the API callouts. There are lots of system permissions that we can manage on the profile level. Same we can do on the permission set as well, except the layout and I think record type assignments. Other than these, we can do most of the things on the permission set as well. That will be done for the user specific levels.
Uh, what you said is right. Addition to that, there is also territory-based sharing rule. When you have the enhanced,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
have the territory management that is enabled. That time those things come into the picture.
So for that, like, can you please explain how that will set up? I mean, just a brief.
How it works is like you have to set up. See, there are various model types that needs to be there in, and then you have different territories that are created in. So basically, the intent here is like account sharing the account records. Like you don't want a sales rep of say Maharashtra to serve, do the actual selling in say Goa or any
Mm.
unrelated, like where the criteria is quite different. So the intent is like they get access to only those territories where they actually lie. So that is the intent behind this territory management. So for
So the
that,
user level territory is managed on user record.
it is a sharing rule, like typically like how it's the ownership based notes kind of similar. But here, like on the user, like which territory they belong, based on that, the logic runs.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. Next thing you mentioned, yeah, this is around the security model. The next thing is around the DevOps. So, what's the typical way, like what branching strategy do you currently follow?
So currently we have different branches for all the different orgs for the different sandboxes like UAT and QA, and for
Start from very basic, like what are the different, like suppose
mm,
a new user story comes in, how that development to deployment is happening.
so currently like whatever changes you are done, once done you can create starting creative, you check out for a feature branch, and then you take all the elements there. Now there comes the profiles and permission sets, or these type of things that where you need to stage the things manually. Once you add that, you can push the changes. So they have set up a CI/CD that starts the validation. We are using Azure DevOps here, and their CI/CD has been set up, and the validation will start. If there are any kind of dependent dependency related error, it will throw and the PR will not pass. So you have to push the changes again until it validates successfully, and then dev leads will review the PR, and once done, they can be approved and merged.
Although you explained the process well, actually I was looking for more granular details. Like actually, what the way I expected is like you started it right. Like it starts with the feature branch, so all the developers would have their own feature branch, which would be merged with the staging. After the staging is merged, then it would go for the validation, and if the pull request is done, then it goes for the review, and then if the person reviews, and then it merges with the QA. After the QA is done, then we have it tool for the UAT. We have different releases. So after the QA, after each sprint, after each sprint's development, the code is moved to the QA, and after the QA, means as per the release plan, it gets deployed to the UAT environment where the business users do the testing, and after the UAT, it moves to prod, and then if the things didn't work out quite well, we also have another branch hotfix, which is a clone of which is from taken from the production, and if any changes are needed, we make the changes directly in the hotfix and get it deployed to the production. And then what we do is we means on the org from the org's endpoint, we refresh, we back promote all the stories that are developed in the hotfix to your dev instance so that it's in sync. Something that of that sort
Yeah,
actually,
makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
not a problem. I think we are